we should watch this Piers Morgan thing. I'm not going to watch the fucking Crackhead Barney shit because that shit is fucking stupid. Okay?
Yeah, you may want to shout and scream at Alec Balwin. All right. I think we've heard enough of Crackhead, to be honest with you.
Dude, why did he even have that person
streamer Hasan
on?
Piker, journalist Emily Austin, uncensored contributor Esther Krakue, and podcaster James Barr. Well, Emily, I mean, on one level, I guess it was quite funny, but on another level, I didn't like what she did to Alec Baldwin. I've got no truck for Alec Baldwin whatsoever. And I think with this case that he's got hanging over him, I hope that justice is served, because ultimately he did fire the gun that killed that poor woman and has been on some kind of weird PR tour ever since. But I don't like to see any public figure, whether it's Eric Adams, the mayor, on a plane, or Alec Baldwin getting a coffee, harangued and harassed in that manner. Now, I tried to conduct a serious interview. She obviously wasn't interested in doing that.
Look at Hasan's face.
Into a foul-mouthed rant and performance thing. Fine. That's entirely her right to do it. But what did you think of these harassings, not just by her, but by other people, of public figures?
You tried to conduct a serious interview with Crackhead Barbie?
Well, no, I was asking her about a viral video of her harassing...
Dude, did you see that? Hasan's face right there when he's listening to him say, oh, I was trying to have a serious fucking... Dude.
You tried to conduct a serious interview with Crackhead Barbie?
Well, no, I was asking her about a viral video of her harassing Alec Baldwin, which I do actually think is a serious thing. I do actually think public figures should not be harassed in that manner.
Why did he even give the Crackhead fucking Barney? Hasan keeps calling her Crackhead Barbie, but why would Piers Morgan give Crackhead Barney a fucking spot on his show? Like, what even was that, man?
I don't think it crosses a line. Right, and Alec Baldwin, as far as I'm aware, has not said anything particularly sensational about the war at all. So why she is harassing him in the street in the way that she did, I think is worthy of examination. Wow. Now, as it turned out, she had no interest in having a serious conversation. Okay, so we've cut it off. But I don't think I should be blamed for getting on someone who is literally at the centre of a quite big news story in America for harassing a famous star. Do you, Hasan?
No, it was for clout. She was doing it for clout. That's why she went on the show, also for clout, which you were correct on pointing out that using the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people as a vehicle to create more social clout for yourself, social capital for yourself is pretty disingenuous, pretty messed up.
I have to jump in there, though, because isn't that what everybody's doing? Isn't that what this show is also doing? Because you're talking about is create political clout, create noise,
I'll come back
to get clicks, to make money.
Listen, let's not all be disingenuous,
right?
But
the whole conversation, and actually Crackhead Barney isn't that different to you.
Well, actually,
and Crackhead Barney said it herself. She said, we're no different. And I kind of agree with Crackhead Barney. I didn't think I'd say
If you think there's any correlation between what she just did on the show...
someone screaming over someone and not letting them speak. Right. There's definitely a correlation.
Well, you think that I treated you like she treated...
Dude, this guy, I don't know who this guy was because I had to look him up. I guess his name is James Barr. And I don't even know why he was there. He's a fucking comedian. But this moment was the only good moment he had when he basically told Piers that, like, you and Crackhead Barney are the fucking same thing, right?
I'm just saying that I think that actually you aren't that different.
He got irritated too.
I've come back to that.
You're just doing it in a different way.
No, it's a preposterous suggestion. I do not do what she does, right? But Hasan, here's the point I'm making to you.
He kind of does.
People think a lot. But are you comfortable? Okay, but are you comfortable,
the most American thing you can do?
Are you comfortable with the ones who are seen chanting support for Hamas or chanting about Intifada?
I am perfectly comfortable with people chanting about the Intifada. As far as the Hamas thing goes, any kind of protest is always going to have a litany of random people, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. You have to look at the actual tangible goals that the protest movement is stating they're interested in.
I think he makes a really good point there, right? Because this is just the whole thing. Like, he wants to focus, Piers and the whole, like, pro Netanyahu fucking fan club want to focus on the one whatever extreme person who's out there chanting some negative shit. And then they don't want to look at the greater scope of the whole protest. What are all of the groups of students actually trying to achieve? And they fucking do this every time. Dude, they did it with Black Lives Matter, right? The one guy who would throw a brick through the window at Target or light a garbage can on fire, right? You know what I'm saying? They would, dude, sorry, boss. We're going to fucking get rid of you, bro. I know you think you're being funny, but you're a fucking moron, and we'll smell you. Right? But with Black Lives Matter, they had to focus on the one person in America who, like, started a building on fire. And then they want to dismiss the whole movement because of that one fucking bad seed, right? But they never do the flip side, right? They're not going to dismiss, you know, anything about the government side, right? And that's fucking problematic. You know what I mean? That is super problematic to look at the one outrageous person that's saying something. It's just like what they did at the USC protest. They go to the USC protest, and instead of interviewing a handful of, you know, Jewish people who were pro, like, ending the war in Gaza, they found the one guy who said, oh, this rhetoric makes me uncomfortable.
And I think that those goals, and I think you will agree with me on this, Piers, I think those goals are pretty valid overall. I think that they want to, one, recenter the attention to the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza, and two, demand that their tuition dollars do not go to operations in Israel. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a campus. There's going to be a sister campus that is being built in Tel Aviv right now for Columbia University. This means that Columbia University, which once housed the likes of the late, great Edward Said and many others, and that currently has many Palestinian students who pay tuition for projects such as this one, will not be able to go to that sister campus. I find that abhorrent, but it's everyday existence in Israel.
Let me bring in Emily. You've been listening to all this. Your response?
With all due respect, Hasan, why do you feel that Columbia, or any college for that matter, owes you to divest from Israel? Why?
See, I have a problem with her right here. Why did she turn it personal? Did you notice that? Did you notice what she just did there? She steps in and she says, why does Columbia owe you, Hasan? Hello, there's thousands of students at Columbia that are working for this. This isn't about Hasan saying, hey man, I want Columbia to divest. It's interesting because she's a sports reporter. She has her own thing, but she definitely personalized that. She personalized that right there.
Why do you think your opinion is correct? Because so far, I heard the classic buzzwords: apartheid, discriminatory, ethnic cleansing, and genocide.
But right there, she buzzwords, okay? When you start accusing someone of using buzzwords, you're dismissing their whole message. She came right out and said, why does Columbia have to bend over for you personally, and you're just checking boxes of buzzwords? That's a little offensive right there. And I'm not talking about the Israeli people, but people who defend the Israeli government, they never want to talk about genocide, even when they say it. And you're going to see something later on where Piers Morgan literally says the only person who's mentioned genocide is Hamas, right? So in Piers's eyes, it won't be a genocide until the Israeli government says, we're going to do some genocide now. That actually is coming up. He's going to say that later in the video.
To talk
culture
about
in the government.
Let me remind you, the Intifada, last time it happened in Israel, consisted of thousands of people dying in bus bombings. So are you saying that you support terrorism and killing innocent people?
Well, Intifada simply just means revolution, and I'm an American, and in 1776,
violent
we did
revolution.
one of those, and it was pretty fucking good. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think the American Revolution was a tickle party?
Hiroshima.
Of course not.
We also bombed Hiroshima.
Don't. Yeah, I know, and that was also unjust and unimaginably cruel. But of course, the Israel defender is also defending nuking civilians and killing them by the hundreds of thousands. Now listen,
so when it fits your narrative, it's justified. But when it goes against it, it's unjust.
To the point.
But I think the point Hasan was making is simply that the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan, affected generations of people there. A serious war crime, but we got away with that.
Let's refocus the conversation.
Okay,
you said,
just to remind everybody, I'm actually moderating this, but that's an interesting point that Emily just raised, Hasan. It does seem that you're very selective about the violence that you support. That when you support it, it's justified. When other people use things in a violent way that you don't support, it's unjustified. Seems like it's all skewed to what Hasan Piker thinks.
Well, everybody does that.
Well, not necessarily just what I think. I think that there are obvious markers, obvious boundaries. I don't think violence against civilians is justified. I have talked about October 7 on this very same show, saying that it was a tragedy. It was atrocities that occurred on October 7 specifically. When you target civilians in any capacity, I think that that is unacceptable. However, this does not mean that violence will not occur in many circumstances. Violence has occurred in every single revolutionary action, many good revolutionary actions. Obviously, America bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with an atom bomb, that was not a very good
Hamas did on
moment
October
for
the 7th,
anybody. It was not a very good moment for human civilization at all.
Was what Hamas did on October the 7th? Was what Hamas did on October the 7th an example of what you would call a justified revolution?
I don't look at every single act of violence. I look at
You've literally just been reciting a whole load of them.
Systems of oppression.
Why are you avoiding October the 7th?
You do it too.
No, I don't.
I'm not avoiding it. I've talked about it a million times over.
Well, let me ask you one more time.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Emily, hang on.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Let me just ask you directly one more time. Let me ask you one more time.
See, look at this. He's going to hammer away. What he wants Hasan to say is Hamas bad, wrong, atrocity. He wants him to spout that line, which he just said what happened on October 7th was hideous. Killing innocent civilians, always wrong. But the clincher is everybody who is trying to end this thing is saying part of the reason why those civilian killing atrocities occur is because of a long stint of oppression and continuous atrocities perpetrated on a large group of people. And I feel like some of this reminds me an awful lot of the battlefield of the inner cities and impoverished neighborhoods in America, where, the police want to just sit here and say gangs, gangs, gangs. Gangs are this huge problem. And sure, there is a problem with gangs, but the reason the gangs exist is because those neighborhoods are starved of resources. They have shitty schools. They have the people that are trapped in those poor neighborhoods have no hope. They have liquor stores on every corner. There's drugs rampant. A lot of parents get locked up and put in jail. They are over-policed. So it's a pressure cooker of depression and lack of opportunity and lack of hope in those neighborhoods with this really over-policing, dominant, aggressive police force. The only thing they have is these cops roaming around. And then what ends up happening is the natural thing that will happen is gangs will form to give a false sense of power to these people that feel powerless of the oppression of the policing and the poverty and the drugs and just the general squalor in those neighborhoods. And when you over-police and you starve neighborhoods of resources and any type of empowerment, gangs will rise up to fight that oppression. And the same shit over there.
Do you believe what happened on October the 7th was a justified act of revolution? Yes or no?
I do not, and I do think that. Oh, wait, hold on. That's let me clarify. Let me clarify something very important here. Events that unfolded on October 7 were atrocities. That much is clear. Those atrocities could have been avoided if Israel was not an apartheid regime. Israel has been an apartheid regime for 75 years.
Can you answer how Israel's an apartheid regime?
In the
because
early,
you keep repeating that.
No, you can't just chime in. You can't just chime in. You ask me a question. You want it.
Why
you ask me a question.
Israel an
I'm going to give
apartheid
you an
regime?
answer.
because you're repeating
Israel
these lies.
has been an apartheid
Go
regime
ahead,
since
please.
its inception. Until
How so?
Until 1967, Israel was an apartheid regime for the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs, as you called them. There was a two-tier criminal justice system. They were subjected to the military court processes and not the civil court processes until 1967. After 1967, they got citizenship. There are obviously still many different social issues that pertain to the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs that are living in Israel, those who are not Jewish, of course. However, Israel currently is occupying the West Bank. There are more than 2 million Palestinians that live in the West Bank. Israel is illegally occupying the West Bank. There are checkpoints. There are license plates that restrict Palestinian travel. The Israeli operations in the West Bank have destroyed Palestinian statehood. Now, of course, all of this is readily available for those who want to learn about it, yourself included. I hope you look it up. B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization which declared Israel to be an apartheid regime in 2021, in the April of 2021. Amnesty International declared Israel to be an apartheid regime.
Let me, before I move,
So he did provide some context to the statement right there, okay? He did provide context.
Hang on. Before I just want to bring in our two British panelists here, but just finally, just to clarify, Hasan, I can't quite work out whether you said you do think October the 7th was...
Dude, he said no, it was not. What the fuck, bro? He literally said, do you think it was a justified action? He said, no, it was not. He answered the fucking question.
Unjustified act of revolution, or whether you change your mind. So can you clarify?
I think that violent means of maintaining an apartheid is inevitably going to yield violent retaliation.
So was it justified?
Something that is completely avoidable.
Was it justified?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hasan?
Hang on, Emily.
You look Hirsch Goldberg Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this person's mother in the eyes and you tell him that this was justified. You tell him his arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that
Dude, he said it wasn't justified. Dude, here, all right, where are we right now? We're at 2120. Hold on, let's just go back and watch this.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki was,
watch.
Of violence. I look at
You've literally just
not an apartheid regime. Let me clarify.
Here, watch. Right here.
So let me ask you one more time.
Here, watch.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Emily, hang on.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Let me just ask you directly one more time. Let me ask you one more time. Do you believe what happened on October the 7th was a justified act of revolution? Yes or no?
I do not. And I do think that...
Do you see that? Do you believe October 7th was a justified act of revolution? And he said, I do not. He answered the question, and then he started qualifying his reasonings behind it of understanding why this shit went on. But he answered the fucking question right there.
B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization
which declared
Israel to be an apartheid regime in 2021, in the April of 2021. Amnesty International.
That pissed me off, actually, when I was watching it.
Before I move... Hang on. Before I just want to bring in our two British panelists here, but just finally, just to clarify, Hasan, I can't quite work out whether you said...
Dude, why is he's asking it again, dude?
Do you think October the 7th was an unjustified act of revolution, or whether you change your mind? So can you clarify?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hasan?
Hang on, Emily.
You look Hirsch Goldberg Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this...
See, he already said it's not justified, but what is she doing here where, you know, now she's bringing somebody with his hand blown off and saying, Hasan, you're personally responsible for talking to his mother about this? Dude, what is her deal, bro? I really want to know what her deal is, boss.
This person's mother in the eyes, and you tell him that this was justified? You tell him...
He said it wasn't justified. What is she even fucking talking about?
His arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying.
Dude, did you see that? He just said it. He literally is like, you're not even fucking listening to me. She's not. She's up there giving her whole, like, she's checking off her box of, I got to show the picture of the wounded guy and say you're responsible.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying. What are you talking about? It just... If you're not going to respect me and listen to what I have to say, which, by the way, of course you don't respect.
Gaza.
Oh, if you talk over each other, nobody can hear you.
What do you mean I think? It's not I think. It's not I think. It's the entire world knows.
No, it is.
Yeah,
hang on.
Yeah, the entire world.
Emily, please. Let me handle this, Emily. Hasan, just before I come to the two people who are with me here, I just need some clarity.
I like what he says there, though. He's like, it's not I think, it's the whole world.
Here, because it seems like you're dancing around whether you think October the 7th was justified or not.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this back and forth masturbation? I've already given you my fucking position.
Why are you doing this?
I'm sick and tired of repeating it over and over again.
Okay,
because it's Jews, it's okay.
Ask this
Emily,
demon next to me wearing a fucking IDF dog tag.
Only when it's Jews, it's okay.
Please stop shouting at each
next to
other.
me wearing an IDF dog tag if she actually thinks Israel's actions are justifiable.
Bring them home.
Do you
it's
see
to
me
bring the
rocking
hostages
the fucking...
home. The hostages that you rightly believe
It doesn't matter. You know what it is.
I'm going to give you two... I'm going to let you two calm down. It's pointless. We cannot hear you when you talk over each other. Every time recently I had someone from both sides on, like it goes like this.
I'm wearing this rusty necklace.
Please, can you listen to me, Emily?
Civilians in Gaza right now.
Can you stop doing this to each other, please? Nobody can understand a word either of you are saying. Now let me come to Esther and James here. This is one of my problems.
No, I want to hear if Emily condemns the actions of
Hasan,
Israel.
you will please let me moderate the debate.
Why did you ask her about 30,000 people?
I've got two panelists here who've not had a word yet.
Because you're a fucking terrorist.
Please stop talking.
And I think you're a terrorist.
Dude, Piers.
I think you're a terrorist as well.
Okay, well, I'm not the one wearing.
Because until the hostages are home, don't expect the war to be over.
Yeah, I know.
Bring
you don't
them
care about the
home.
hostages. If you cared about the hostages,
you're condemning
you would
me.
be
You are
screaming at
exposing
Benjamin Netanyahu.
your own terrorism on live television.
Is the hostage
you
killer.
You are exposing. You know.
Benjamin Netanyahu has killed more hostages than
Hamas. What do you think you're achieving here?
Talking about?
Not only oppressing the Palestinian people, but for spreading terrorism. I don't see your outrage at Hamas. Israel gave Gaza back in 2005,
I would like to, please.
And Hamas has turned this into a terrorist haven.
Emily and Hasan, can you please show some courtesy to the other panelists?
Evil in comparison to Israel.
Can you please stop talking, both of you, and let the other two panelists have a say?
You want a soundbite, Pierce? I'll give you a
them some
soundbite.
Dude, he's like, you want the soundbite? I'll give you the soundbite.
Some courtesy for your co-panelists here. Now, Esther, this is one of the problems I have with this whole debate, is that increasingly it just descends into...
Dude, I'm still trying to figure out who the fuck this guy is and why he's even there.
Screaming match between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis.
See, here's the deal, though. I understand why Hasan is annoyed, because thus far, the entire discussion has been centered around, Hasan being this representative of the Palestinian voices. And do you condemn October 7th? Do you condemn Hamas? And even when he answers the question, do you believe it was a justified act of revolution? And he says, no, it was not. No, I do not. Well, let me clarify. Can you say it again? Come on. I'm still unclear how you feel. But he's just on Hasan's ass the whole time. He's not asking her about condemning Benjamin Netanyahu. There's never any condemnation questioned about Israel. And if you've looked at some of this stuff, there are guys like in the Israeli government that have said some wild fucking shit. They're not asking her about all the statements that the Israeli government has made, This
descends into a screaming match between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis.
It's got to be really frustrating.
The victims of this war. 33,000 dead Palestinians, over 1,500 dead Israelis. These are the biggest victims of this, because
look at that number, though. Did you hear that number? 33,000 dead Palestinians, over 1,500 dead Israelis. You see the difference between those two numbers? That's a big difference. That's a huge power differential there. Okay? If there's 33,000 dead Palestinians and 1,500 dead Israeli people, then we know there's some kind of a huge fucking power differential at play.
It descends into a screaming match. James, on the wider point of these protests...
Well, I couldn't get to that part because I wanted to describe what the apartheid is, and Emily cut in immediately to chirp about some random shit.
Okay, you were both abusing each other. It was very unedifying.
It was very
Let me ask James. James, on the protests...
Yeah, dude.
On the protests, look, I believe in the right to protest. That's an absolute bedrock of any democracy. But I don't believe in the right to support terror groups publicly or to chant about support for Hamas or to chant about Intifada, which is a violent uprising. Where's the line for you with these?
I agree. I think we have to condemn what Hamas did, and I don't think the words that have been used so far have been strong enough. I mean, it was the worst thing we've seen in a very long time. It was disgusting, appalling.
Dude, it was tragic, October 7th. And yes, it was horrible. I don't think, though, I personally don't think it is fair to only condemn the actions of Hamas and without having some long-standing condemnation for what's been going on for the 50 years preceding October 7th, right? Like the same way we get this shit in America too. We have this in America and it fucking pisses me off. There will be police brutality and over-policing and unfair jail sentences for 10, 20, 30 years. And then finally, the cops shoot some unarmed young kid, and then all the people in that city start burning down buildings, and they're like, oh, you gotta condemn the buildings burning down. And it's like, where were you motherfuckers for the last 30 years when they were complaining about the over-policing and complaining about the poverty and complaining about, the long prison sentences and nobody fighting for them? And then finally you shoot one of them and they fucking riot. And now you just want to talk about the riot, but you don't want to talk about the 30 years that led up to the riot. It's the same shit. Whenever it's like state-sponsored oppression, they never want to talk about the state-sponsored oppression. They want to talk about the one act of violence that comes in reaction to the oppression. And the act of violence is horrific, yes. But if you don't do something about long-standing state-sponsored oppression, there will be an act of violence. That's just the way it works. You can't be oppressed. You can only be oppressed for so long before an act of violence happens, and we've learned this 1,000 times over. You know what I'm saying?
Awful for everyone involved. I also have a lot of sympathy, if not, I can't think of a bigger word, for the people of Gaza. It's awful, and I will agree with you. I do want a free Palestine, and I also want a free and successful Israel, but I don't want innocent people murdered. So
now let's see, though, if he brings any condemnation to the Israeli government, because he said, Hamas is awful, terrible, they're unthinkable, blah, blah, blah. The worst atrocity ever. And he said, I can't even think of a big enough word. I'll say sympathy for the Palestinian people, right? And but will he say anything about the Israeli government being too harsh? Oh, all right, there was this horrific action, but 33,000 people dead? It's like the entire fucking population.
You can't go to a protest and start shouting about support for Hamas. That's insane.
Isn't it ironic that something like this has become a haven for the mentally unwell? You're talking about something as serious as a conflict in Israel and Gaza, and for some reason you have really uneducated people that are clearly 20 years ago would have been in an asylum supporting this openly, not even knowing the conflict, not even knowing the context of what they're supporting, and for some reason we even give it airtime. That's what upsets me. These people don't deserve airtime.
Right? What is she talking about? Is she talking about Crackhead Barney there?
Everyone is so triggered on both sides, on all sides, and rightly so, because a lot of terrible stuff has happened.
Dude, when they say that, when they start in with the all sides, I start getting a little itchy about that.
That's where the emotion is coming from. But really, I think we all want the same thing, and that is for innocent people to not be murdered or slain in the streets.
Right. I mean, look, Hasan.
But
hang on,
can I add
Emily,
something?
please, I'll come to you. Let me just ask Hasan. When you and Emily go at each other like you just did, nobody wins. I mean, no one can really understand a word you're saying because you're shouting over each other. You end up just calling each other terrorists. There's no sensible dialogue here. There's no constructive conversation. It's just two implacably opposed sides abusing each other. Do you understand that?
Yeah, listen, Piers, okay? This is going to always be a very heated discussion, okay? Having a conversation about how heated this discussion is utterly unproductive. Every single moment that we use on air, not talking about every single university building being desecrated, destroyed. The fact that we're having this conversation on the eve of hundreds of mass graves being unearthed right now in many different parts of Gaza around hospitals that Israel had laid siege to is disgusting. I agree. I came on here, as I have done last time as well, and as I will probably do in the future as well, with one simple goal in mind, which is to address all of the misinformation that surrounds stuff like this. As far as the Crackhead Barbie thing goes, yeah, she's a random TikTok influencer who gives a shit about what she has to say. She's obviously doing it for clout. But the students over at Columbia, okay, the students that I have talked to.
The students are not doing this for clout or to get some kind of social media notoriety.
Columbia University apartheid divest.
Here comes the cut.
Students that I've talked to from Jewish Voice for Peace.
All right, Emily,
dude, as soon as he mentioned Jewish Voice for Peace, technical difficulties. And then they cut. We never hear the end of that because there's a thing, right? We have Emily saying, this is unjustified Israel, but there are a whole bunch of Jewish people. We watch those videos. Thousands of people protesting in Tel Aviv. There are Jewish people in Israel that want to stop killing Palestinians. They want to stop occupying Palestinian territory. They want to stop building walls around them and oppressing them.
Just ask you the same thing I asked Hasan. When you guys scream at each other and call each other terrorists, it doesn't obviously achieve anything other than it becomes unintelligible to the audience. Is there not a better way we can have this conversation?
Funnily enough, correct. And funnily enough, I have the same exact answer as Hasan. My job here is to make sure that I'm debunking false narratives that Hasan is clearly spewing. My job here is to call out hypocrisy. And I just saw another one where he's saying that Crackhead Barney, whoever the hell that girl was, is a lunatic, but Aaron Bushnell, who lights himself on fire, is a hero. You can't pick and choose whatever fits your narrative. And I keep on repeating that over and over again because the Palestinian movement will literally just take what they can get, spew all of the truth.
Well, I'm not going to say that, I wouldn't go so far as to say the Aaron Bushnell guy was a hero, but setting yourself on fire to make a statement about a cause, sacrificing your life to try to end the killing of tens of thousands of people, there's something about that is a little more noble than wearing a fucking diaper and screaming insane shit and just, making a TikTok screaming at Alec Baldwin so you can get invited on some fucking TV shows. There's a huge difference there. I'm not saying that setting yourself on fire is cool, or I highly don't recommend it, but somebody who's going to sacrifice their life, lay down their own life in order to bring attention to a cause, there is a little bit of nobility. I mean, that's not any different than some guy who jumps off a boat at D-Day and goes rushing up the beach on Omaha Beach. Okay, that guy's fucking sacrificing his own life to try and liberate the people of Europe. I mean, I don't even really consider the guy who set himself on fire necessarily as committing suicide. I don't think he wanted to die. You know what I mean? Suicide is I want to end my life. Okay? that guy who set himself on fire, he wasn't like, I want to end my life. He was somebody who was, you know, nobody is paying attention to this. Here's how bad it is that people are willing to sacrifice themselves to let you know about this bigger issue. It's not exactly suicide, okay? It's not exactly suicide. It's different. It's like the guy on the Rage Against the Machine cover, that Buddhist monk who did it back in, you know, I can't remember his name, but it was this guy. Oh, there it is. The immolation at Kwangdu. I don't know how to say his name correctly, but a Buddhist monk, okay, protesting the oppression of the Buddhist religion, okay? This guy was not committing suicide, okay? Dude, I know, Drogba. I'm not saying engage in this kind of behavior, but I do want to draw, like when Bully Bryce said suicide is never the answer, I do want to draw a distinction to the difference between this and suicide. Suicide is a grappling with depression or mental illness or a feeling of hopelessness. I can't go on. I can't face life. I need to end my life. Okay? But this is an extreme form of protest of saying, I will sacrifice my life for this protest. Okay? It's kind of like when those soldiers, they were going into enemy territory and their commander said, hey, paratroopers, 100 of you guys are going to jump out. 20 of you are going to survive. Those guys were in that moment. They were not committing suicide. They were making a commitment to the cause of liberating Europe, knowing that it was going to cost them their lives. But they were laying their life down for the cause. Okay? That is not suicide. We do need to draw a distinction there to the difference, okay? Because you really, you know, what about the kid's family? But dude, what about the families of all the kids that go in the military? I mean, you know, I don't know. When you lay your life down for a cause, your family suffers sometimes. That's factual. But you know, that is not something that you get to just pin on the extreme protester. The thing about it is, though, is when people see somebody do an extreme protest like this, they want to compare them to mentally ill, depressed, suffering, suicidal people, as opposed to wanting to compare them to the paratroopers that jumped out of the plane in Europe or the guys that jumped out of a boat knowing they were going to die, the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, running up Omaha Beach. And my point is that these guys doing this extreme form of protest are much closer to the soldiers getting off the boat on Omaha Beach than they are to a person who is feeling suicidal and just wanting to get off the planet. Okay? And that's a distinction that this woman, Emily, here in this video is not making. And dismissing it as suicide is missing the fucking point. And I think that recognition, she blows that here.
You are using
Hasan,
humans
pause.
in
Why do
captivity
you
as a
think the
political
hostages
tool.
are
It's so obvious.
Why, Hasan? Why are you dehumanizing the hostages? Because I have no problem admitting the Palestinians deserve
I'm
better.
not.
I feel
You're
terrible
using
at the
them as a
casualties.
political
I
pawn.
can say that.
If you cared about the hostages,
can't.
you would be
Hasan,
in Tel
not
Aviv
Hamas
right now,
using the
alongside.
All right, let me bring in James. Let me bring
Leave
in
them alone.
Let me bring in
They're
James,
not a
please.
I'm sorry that I
political
can't
pawn.
listen to
Please,
that, Hasan.
let me bring in James.
I agree with both of your
Sorry,
arguments,
can you
but
please, when I say stop talking, please stop talking. We've got 4 people here.
if
James.
anyone is using hostages, surely it's Hamas, Hasan. How can you say that? How can you use that argument? That's a crazy thing to say. It's Hamas
What do you
that
mean, how can I
have
use that
taken
argument?
these
There are
people from their
currently
homes,
tens of thousands of people in
murdered their
Israel.
relatives.
There are currently tens of thousands of Israeli citizens right now in the streets of Israel, in the streets of Tel Aviv, outside of Benjamin Netanyahu's house, protesting every single day. What are they protesting? They're protesting for Benjamin Netanyahu to facilitate a ceasefire with Hamas so that they can actually bring the hostages home. That is precisely the number one goal of the family members of the hostages.
Who is using
the hostages?
anyone
on this panel was being even a little bit honest, they would recognize the reality that, listen.
You didn't listen to my question.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand perhaps what I'm trying to imply
That's very
here.
patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages.
Here it comes.
I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit.
Dude, I mean, this is fair, okay? Because I don't know who this guy is. He's like a comedian or something. I mean, maybe he's some big voice, but he has been all like Hamas, and he hasn't said anything critical of the Israeli government. Greasy Gamer, let's go. 37 months. Palestine.
You are, and you're over here chirping at the hostages.
Who is using the
anyone
hostages?
on this panel was being even a little bit honest, they would recognize the reality that, listen.
You didn't listen to my question.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand perhaps what I'm trying to imply here.
That's very patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages. Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Where you're talking about how you want to fucking free Palestine, but also simultaneously, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything, okay?
I literally
don't give a shit about
that.
what your perspective is.
I agree
Hassan
with
doesn't
quite
like
a lot
what you
of the
have
things
to
you're saying,
say, so
Hassan.
you're wrong. It's Hassan's way or the highway.
I mean, you
Wow,
are. You
really
are. There is no
clever
both
you
sides
are.
on a genocide. Is there a
Really
both sides of a
clever.
genocide? There is no both sides.
Well, the thing is, it's interesting you should mention the hostages.
What
There
is
is
in the
no both
Hamas
sides
charter?
and
They want
apartheid.
a Jewish genocide, but that's okay. But a
the
Jewish
thing is,
genocide is okay.
if you're talking about the well-being of the
Hamas
if you're talking about the well-being of the hostages, what sense did it make for the IDF to flatten about 70% of Gaza? Because I completely agree. Bring the hostages home. If you look at Gaza, the topography of Gaza right now, it looks like a pancake. So I'm sorry, this whole argument of Hamas using them as human tools, fine, but the IDF has also been using it to continue that campaign. If you were told that, if God forbid, if your relative was one of the hostages and you saw what's happening right now, and I met someone whose mother is a hostage, and he said he didn't want his mother and her being taken to be used in the name of violence. Right now, he's sitting at home wondering, okay, what is the logic of trying to bring my mother home when you flattened Gaza? Please explain that to us.
So, can I pose a question
you might very well pull those hostages from under.
Okay, let Emily respond to that.
Everyone wants to criticize the IDF's response, but nobody wants to tell me what should Israel be doing to retaliate October 7th, eradicate Hamas from preventing another October 7th, and bring the hostages home.
I have an idea.
Do you have a solution?
Well, the problem is what has Israel been doing for the last 30 years to end the oppression of the Palestinian people, right? Like, she wants to focus on Israel's retaliation for October 7th, but a lot of the world wants to be like, hey, can we address the situation with the Palestinian people so there aren't any more October 7th, right? Like, let's make it so there are no more October 7th. But killing 33,000 people, leveling all of Gaza, I don't think that's going to make Hamas not do another October 7th. I think that's going to give Hamas warriors even more fuel to plan the next one. It's almost like the IDF wants the October 7th so they can pummel Gaza, and Hamas wants Gaza to get pummeled so they can do more October 7th. You see what I'm saying? Both of those sides want the reaction so they can continue fighting each other, right? But the Israeli citizens and the Palestinian people are caught in the middle of that shit. But everyone just wants to talk about Hamas's role in that, but nobody wants to talk about the IDF's role. And that's really the fucking problem is we need to have people being as critical and as pissed off at the IDF as they are at Hamas. And then at that point, when you're holding both of them responsible equally, then I think we can start dismantling some of that shit. But right now, the only bad guy is always Hamas or whatever hardline group they want. It could be Hamas, it could be Hezbollah, it could be Iran, right? And I don't want to let those guys off the hook because obviously the government of Iran sucks, bro. They're shitty to women, they're shitty to gay people, they're shitty to fucking everybody. That any hardline theological based government is going to be trash, right? If we have Project 2025 and the Christian version of that shit here, it's going to be fucking trash. Theological governments are always trash, because they're always controlling and overbearing and oppressive. Religion is oppressive.
I have an idea. Do not flatten Gaza and potentially pull your own hostages up from under the rubble, like have been done with thousands of Palestinians. That's a good idea. Yeah. Have you found any of them under the rubble?
So you're saying that you don't have an answer.
That is the answer. So you don't kill your own hostages.
But dude, look at her. She is so fucking confrontational. She asks them, "Do you have an answer?" And she says, "Yeah, the answer is stop bulldozing." Oh, you don't have an answer. Like, dude. It's hard because you can see what's going on here. This person, she feels that she has the sort of moral and she has the moral superiority. So I don't think it's possible to give her an answer because the answer to her is to let the IDF just do whatever they're going to do, retaliate as much as they want. And everybody else needs to bow down. And that's hard.
Condemn the IDF, but you don't have an answer.
How about not killing the hostages?
Very interesting.
I have an answer.
Thank you for proving my point.
It's called the dissolution of the apartheid regime. That's what it's called. Dissolve the apartheid regime.
So what would you like to see happen,
Palestinians
Hasan?
Breathing room.
He said dissolve the apartheid regime. He just fucking said it. Well, what would you like to do?
Do you not understand the English language? Dissolve.
Dude, he literally said what the answer is, but she's like,
dissolution of the apartheid regime.
Hostages.
Very interesting.
I have an answer.
Thank you for proving my point.
It's called the dissolution of the apartheid regime. That's what it's called. Dissolve the apartheid regime.
So what would you like to see happen,
Palestinians
Hasan?
breathing room. Do you not understand the English language? Dissolve the apartheid regime.
You need a Xanax, first of all. You need a Xanax. Okay, so should Israel...
Dude, right, you need a Xanax. There you go. That's another you're the problem. You're the problem. You're overreacting. Like, man, see, I don't hate her, the person, but I hate this type of disingenuous argument because do you have an answer? He gives her the answer. Then she's like, oh, you don't have an answer. The same with the black woman. Do you have an answer? She's like, yes, I have an answer. Oh, you don't have an answer. And he gives her the answer and she's like, oh, you don't have an answer. He's like, what are you doing? I just gave you a fucking answer. And then she's like, oh, you need to calm down. I mean, her tactic is have an agenda to show the picture of the wounded guy, Hamas horrible, IDF innocent. What else could we do? Don't listen to anybody's right. Don't listen to anybody. Like, she's not listening. She came there to show the picture, show the horrors. It's all Hamas. It's like, she'll say for a minute, oh, the poor Palestinian people, but then she'll put earmuffs on and not listen to anything that anybody's saying, right? And when they give her the answer, she's like, oh, you don't have an answer. But she's already shut down,
I'm sorry. 30,000 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered by the Israeli state. It makes me a little upset when someone is defending that.
Gaza? Is that what you'd like to see? Another terrorist haven launching rockets all day instead of turning into Singapore? Because that's what they did in 2005.
Wait, hold on. What is Singapore?
The billions of dollars in aid they turned into building tunnels. Is that what you'd like to see?
Bombing,
I don't know. Have I gone
Singapore
deaf?
every day?
Sorry,
What,
Emily,
is
is the
Singapore
West
an
Bank
open-air
supposed to be
prison?
Singapore?
What are you talking about?
Is the West Bank supposed to be
The West
Singapore?
Bank received. The West Bank has a port. They can import and export. Israel gave them a great piece of land. They received billions of dollars in aid, not only from the
Israel
U.S.,
gave them a great
but
piece of
Israel
land?
gave. Are you
No.
mad?
Did you see that? Israel gave them a great piece of land. I mean, I don't know, dude. This is.
Is that what you like to see?
Bombing,
I don't know.
who's
Have I
bombing
gone
Singapore
deaf?
every day?
Sorry,
What,
Emily, is the
Singapore
West
an
Bank
open-air
supposed to be
prison?
It's a
Singapore?
tough one, man.
Is the West Bank supposed to
The
be
West
Singapore?
Bank received. The West Bank has a port. They can import and export. Israel gave them a great piece of land. They received billions of dollars in aid, not only from
Israel
the
gave
U.S.,
them a great
but
piece of
Israel
land?
gave. Are you
No.
mad? They had
Israel gave them a great piece of land. Now, why are they taking issue with that? Because that all of that land was not Israel at one time, right? Israel gave them their own land. It's really, it's not the same thing, but it is a little bit similar to we come over here and colonize the United States, and we take all that land, and then we give the native people a reservation and a casino, right? We gave them that land. We gave them a tiny portion of this much larger amount of land that we took from them.
chance to rebuild, but they spent the last 15 plus years crying that they don't have enough land because there is never enough land for them instead of rebuilding. But that's okay. Build terrorist tunnels. Don't build hotels and don't rebuild civilization. Just build terrorist tunnels to keep hostages in.
To have a nation state that they deserve by international law since the inception of the Israeli nation state. What you are saying is insane to me. The fact that you brought up the last 15 years as Palestinians crying is disgusting.
Oh, I have one more question.
You are a disgusting little monster who thinks that not offering contiguity to the Palestinians in the form of a state, which is under international law, is just simply Palestinians crying.
One question.
Okay?
This West Bank
don't
Singapore.
want a two-state solution.
They want
a one-state solution that eradicates the Israelis, which is not an option.
Fine. This West Bank Singapore, what place does the settlements play in that? How? Please paint a picture of how the West Bank of Singapore, or whatever, Singapore of the West Bank, how does this illegal settlements fit into that?
I think you're completely missing the picture.
Just explain to me how the settlements fit into
that. She called her ma'am.
I'm explaining it.
Okay, I'm listening.
The picture is they got a great piece of land to turn into society. Instead of turning it into civilized society,
Who did?
Hamas... Israel gave the land to Gaza. They
so then why the Israeli settlements?
Dude, Hasan is gonna blow a gasket here about the Israel giving the land. But dude, she's doing that shit though. She's doing that Trumpian shit. She's doing the Trumpian shit right here. Emily Austin is doing the Trumpian shit where she's saying instead of building a civilized society, they've turned into animals. You know? Like, that's not fair or accurate to say that the Palestinian, like, that's the Trumpian shit. That's the Trumpian shit. That's the white supremacist shit that they say about, like, the inner city. You know? Yeah, no, they are the same age, and she mammed her, right? She's pulling some shit, bro. She's pulling that fucking, that's like boy, you know, that's like if she called her boy or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you know, and now she's about to go on the rant of, oh, Israel gave the Palestinians this great land in Gaza and they turned into animals. That's what she's about to say, man. Like, she's about to run the Trumpian fucking animal, like, you know, the savages line, right? This is what you do when you want to wipe out an entire population. you call them savages. We did it in America with the Native Americans. They did it when they enslaved the blacks, right? They try to do it. The racists try to do it when they talk about people in the inner cities or whatever. And now she's about to do the savages thing with the people in Gaza. And that's fucking bullshit, bro.
Eradicates the Israelis, which is not an option.
Fine. This West Bank, Singapore, what place does the settlements play in that? How? Please paint a picture of how the West Bank of Singapore or whatever, Singapore of the West Bank. How does this illegal settlements fit into that?
I think you're completely missing. You're missing the picture.
Just explain to me how the settlements fit into that picture.
A piece of land. I'm explaining it.
Okay, I'm listening.
The picture is they got a great piece of land to turn into society. Instead of turning it into civilized society, Israel gave the land to Gaza. They withdrew.
Then why the Israeli settlers?
It's not Israel's land to give. It's not Israel's land to give. It is not Israel's land to give.
There are no Jews or Israelis. There are no settlements in Gaza.
In the West Bank.
They gave it to
in the West
the
Bank.
Palestinians.
They're not in the West Bank.
I'm speaking about Gaza, and now you're
asking
changing
about
the narrative.
West Bank because I was interested in knowing about Singapore.
I'm telling you that if Israel pulls out completely from the West Bank, if Israel pulls out from the West Bank, you can bet your ass it turns into the next Gaza. The world does not need two Gazas because one Gaza has already caused enough damage. If, however, Gaza decides to demand
every argument
Hamas
with Israel is about some hypothetical.
And they see, that's the thing, she's saying, if the Israeli settlements leave the West Bank, then the people there will not be a civilized society. They'll become animals. They'll become, terrorists. That
have democracy.
Israel has to do a genocide because if Israel doesn't do a genocide, then the Gaza
is no genocide. The only genocide is the Hamas charter that wants to eradicate the Jews.
Defensive genocide.
It's interesting the word genocide. Hang on.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Here's where Piers is going to come in with his, it's not a genocide until you say it's a genocide.
Hang on. I would love to get a word in, please. Interesting the word genocide, because I've listened to all this fractious debate, everyone talking over each other. The truth is that actually only one side has publicly said that they wish to pursue a genocide, and that is Hamas. Hamas, after October the 7th, through their official spokesman on camera, said they wanted to do it again and again and again. That is the purest articulation of a genocide imaginable. And the one thing I never hear from the pro-Palestinian side is what Israel was actually... Hang on. No, don't interrupt me.
So I haven't
asked you a question yet.
One Hamas guy...
Sorry, I need to ask you a question.
You're being a ridiculous person.
I'm not being a ridiculous person. I'm just saying, nobody ever tells me...
How many Israeli officials, even on your show, have said, we should keep doing what we have been doing to Gaza over and over again? How does that not register in the same genocidal intent? If you think what that dude was saying, which was, by the way, ridiculous what he was saying, the Hamas official was saying, is that we're going to do October 7th over and over again.
But he said it.
We are justified in doing it over and over again. I find that to be abhorrent. However, what you fail to recognize is that's the genocidal intent, but not Amalek. That's the genocidal intent, but not saying we are fighting human animals. And that's why we have to cut off their food, their water, and their electricity.
Yeah, and she was using the animal argument too. She even said it. Israel gave them this wonderful piece of land of Gaza, and instead of turning it into a civilized society, she was about to go with they turned into animals or they became savages. It's always... If you want to wipe them out, you make them savages. That's why people here get tired of the groomer rhetoric with LGBTQ people. If you call LGBTQ people groomers, pedos, fucking whatever, right? Demons, eventually, you go in there and just eradicate them and people are like, yeah, you got to get rid of the demons. You got to get rid of the evil pedos. Right? That's harmful rhetoric. That's where the cleansing comes in. When you use those terms.
That was Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
There we go with the lies
Benjamin
again.
Netanyahu
You're saying Israel cuts off their electricity. They don't even provide their electricity. You're saying they cut off their water. They don't cut off their water. You are spewing lies on national television.
I'm talking
hang on. Again, you're talking over each other. Some of
I'm
the
sorry,
some
name
of the
me
comments.
another army that
There's no
provides
doubt,
aid
Emily,
to people they're at war with.
some of the
Only
comments-
Israel.
some of the-
Israel is
No, Piers,
All
I'm not
right.
letting him
the
spew
most
misinformation.
caring
I'm not
country
letting
on the
him
It's
fucking
pointless.
planet.
blatant
I
lies
swear to
on
God.
television.
Start it again.
This is pointless. We're getting
No,
nowhere.
because he's
Thank you.
Yeah,
spewing
did Yoav Galant
misinformation.
not say that?
Israel's cutting off electricity,
Okay.
water, and aid. Just
We're getting-
spewing
Did Defense
lies. I'm not
Minister
gonna let
Yoav
you do it.
Galant say we are fighting human animals or not? Answer that question. Did Defense Minister Yoav
Yes,
Galant
yes,
say
yes.
we are
Hamas
fighting
is
human
human
animals and we have to cut off
animals.
their electricity,
Correct.
cut off their food, cut off
Correct.
their water?
Okay.
Yeah, the slight
You know
that
what?
Israel,
I'm going to cut
Israel
off. I'm
provides
going to cut off this
79%
debate.
of their electricity. The rest is Hamas.
I'm going to cut off the
That's
debate
not
because we're
Israel.
getting
Israel
absolutely
provides-
nowhere. But I
Okay.
appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you very much indeed.
Then he cut it off. But dude, it's like, I mean, that was very telling. I don't know. It's complicated, but it also seems like it's pretty simple too. Because every oppressive regime engages in that kind of behavior. Every oppressive regime uses that lingo. You know, I see it with Trump. He does it with immigrants. He calls them animals. And then later he says, no, I'm only talking about the bad ones, the criminal ones. But they're not. You know, she kept saying that Israel gave them this wonderful plot of land. But who was them? Was them the Palestinian people? Right? But then all of a sudden, you know, instead of creating a civilized society, they became animals. But the Palestinian people of Gaza are not fucking Hamas. Okay? The Palestinian people of Gaza and Hamas are not interchangeable. Okay? The Israeli citizens that are protesting in Tel Aviv and Benjamin Netanyahu, the IDF, they are not interchangeable. Okay? They're not. You know, and an immigrant in America who commits a murder is not interchangeable with all immigrants. That type of rhetoric, when you start interchanging, that's oppression. That's how you recognize oppression. You recognize oppression when they start like trying to take entire groups of people and lumping them into savages or groomers or animals or whatever it is. That is the rhetoric that oppressors use to dehumanize, so then they can go in and wipe them all out. And we see it here, man. We had a genocide here with the native people, and we had a type of genocide with the enslavement of blacks where they didn't kill them, but it was like they did everything else. They fucking certainly killed their fucking spirit, right? And they're trying to do it. Trump is trying to do the same fucking shit with immigrants by dehumanizing them, poisoning the blood, using that Hitler shit, the vermin, calling them animals over and over and over again. And then what does he want to do? He wants to create some fucking super force that's going to run around asking every Hispanic looking person to see their papers and round them up to make them prove that they're fucking citizens before they, that's terror. That's oppression. That's fucking terrorism. That's bullshit. And they're doing the fucking same shit in this video. That fucking shit pisses me off. And I understand why Hasan is pissed. I understand, everybody was pissed at that Emily Austin woman, and she was doing little shit too, personalizing the Hasan, mamming the black woman who's basically your same age. That behavior is like, it's the behavior of the oppressor. And I feel like we should call that shit out. I do. I feel like we should call that shit out.